So, what you're looking at here is footage of me playing Watch Dogs Legion at E3 2019. Yeah, I'm the big curly-headed oaf here, gloriously screwing up, but luckily the Ubisoft reps weren't supposed to capture the screen. So I actually got the chance to interview Watch Dogs Legion's game design director, Kent Hudson. So I'll have a few snippets from that interview in this video. I think he said some pretty relevant and interesting stuff, and we'll be sure to put the full interview up on spieltimes.com, so you'll find the link to that below. So there's two things about Watch Dogs Legion that are both super interesting to me, and we'll come to the second one a bit later. The first is this technology powering the new Watch Dogs game. It's powered by this incredibly ambitious system called Play As Anyone, and it's designed so you can play as any NPC in this world. You just profile them, do a mission to recruit them, and they're on your team. That's super exciting, and if they manage to pull it off and really make all these characters feel unique, it will be a huge achievement. I got to play about an hour of Watch Dogs Legion, and yeah, it's super exciting. I started out as this old lady, similar to the one you saw in the trailer, although this was a coincidence. The other people playing that alpha were assigned different characters. I just happened to be assigned to the old lady, and her movement speed was honestly frustratingly slow, but I guess they were aiming for realism. I just wanted to get through and recruit the next character because I only had an hour to play and I didn't want to waste time slowly wandering around London as this old lady. But we actually had a power outage in the whole building. It took out the whole convention center at E3, and right in the middle of the Watch Dogs demo. So once the demo got started back up, I restarted as a different character. And this time I was a lithe young DJ. And so I went through the mission, I recruited a new operative to DedSec, and I finally got to switch to them. And yeah, it really does feel like I was playing as three fundamentally different characters. Not just the skill set, but the movement speed, melee combat, all that good stuff. The first character I played as had a special ability where they could send out this spider robot we could remotely control, so I could use it to sneak into enemy security stations or remotely gather intelligence. Then the second character I played as had this completely different ability, and I believe I was allowed to choose that ability and specialization from a list. I'm not 100% sure, but I remember choosing something. He had the ability to use something called an AR cloak, so for a short period of time he would completely disappear and be invisible to everyone. But I really appreciated that they actually felt like different characters with different playstyles, not just three variants on the same template. So here's what game design director Kent Hudson told me about the challenges they faced designing this system for Watch Dogs Legion.
Sure, yeah, so it all starts with a really complex, essentially like a massive database of biographical information that we've developed. It's based on the population of London, which is one of the most diverse cities in the world. So it's a technology we called Census, which C-E-N-S-U-S, yeah, Census, which basically is this huge, database of things like place of birth, nationality, places you live in the city, occupations, gender, race, and all the things that go into making a person a person. And we basically create connections between those things and say, okay, cool, if you live in this part of town, you probably work at this kind of job and have these kind of friends and blah, blah, blah. And so you essentially start to collate all of this data together. We've got sort of ties between different bits and pieces of the data to sort of construct someone from the ground up. And so that sort of builds a backstory and a biography of who they are, age and all those things. And then once we sort of build that up, we then start to get into the visual representation, which is, the character model, the animation set, the tons of facial capture. We've got a lot of voice actors, for example, who don't just do voice. It's actually personalities and personas.
Okay, interesting.
So it's not like you're just going to hear two different voice actors reading the same lines in the cutscenes. They've actually got their own takes on it.
The second thing that's super interesting about Watch Dogs Legion is this is one of Ubisoft's most overtly political games ever. It's set in this post-Brexit vision of the UK, where order has broken down, this private security force called Albion has come in and really taken over, turned London into this dystopian surveillance state, powered by predictive policing, drone warfare, and these huge networked banks of intelligence. So I asked Kent a bit about Brexit and how that situation shaped this really interesting dystopian vision of London they're painting, and here's what he said.
So that's actually an interesting one because London was actually picked as the setting of the game before the Brexit referendum happened.
Okay, interesting.
And so it was originally picked because, in Watch Dogs, there's always been the theme of technology and surveillance and the way that affects our lives, and London being the most surveilled city in the world.
Sure, CCTV everywhere.
Yeah, it was like a natural fit, and so it originally was just inspired by that. And then Brexit happened, and it was like, whoa, Now, like this kind of shifted out from under us.
Right.
And we sort of cast it into the near future. So it is a work of speculative fiction, right?
Right.
This is near future. We're not making a prediction that we think this is going to be how it goes.
Right.
We're just saying that like this is one path that it could be in our speculative fiction.
Okay.
And then obviously it's a very divisive political time.
Right, absolutely.
And so we're kind of taking the stance that DedSec is about people putting their differences aside because it's sort of like against that backdrop of the political drama. There are opportunities. So the villains in our game are actually people who are trying to capitalize on that bad situation. So they're definitely the villains, right?
Right.
They're saying that,
Okay.
when people are divided like this, people will try to take advantage. So DedSec's actually just trying to bring people back together and push back against people who are exploiting it.
So yeah, I think that perspective is super interesting. This game isn't about Brexit, really. It's about how the causes of Brexit, these factors that contributed to the feeling of displacement and alienation, automation, surveillance, anxiety about governance structures might be supercharged in the future and create this terrifying vision of London. But there's also quite a lot of humor in the game. Your companion and DedSec's resident AI, Bagley, is quite funny and quippy too, so it's not as dark as, for instance, Children of Men, another work that paints a dystopian vision of a near-future London. And by the way, Children of Men was a huge influence on the team working on Watch Dogs Legion, as Kent told me, so if you're a fan of that film, which I think is an absolute modern classic, you might be interested in this world. There were a few bugs and glitchy things in the demo, but they kept emphasizing, this is alpha, this is super early, and for being at that stage in development, I have to say, what I played felt pretty close to being there. It did have polish, did have good car handling for the most part, but the thing it had that I'm really excited about is this freedom of control and approach to missions. And I'll just give you one more example before I wrap up. There's this mission you'll see in the trailer where you have to break into Camden Market, and there's a nearby delivery drone, so the player in the trailer climbs on top of the drone and uses it to slip over the gate. Well, I had the same encounter, but instead of just climbing on the drone, I hacked it, climbed on top, and used it like a mini helicopter to jet around the whole area. And the drone was carrying a big package. I could actually drop the package on top of the target I was supposed to be tracking down to kill them. So there were all these different entry points and paths I could have taken for that mission, sneaking in through the side, climbing a pipe to the roof, using the drone. And I really appreciate games that give you that sort of sandbox toolset and let you loose to create your own havoc and find your own way. And the Watch Dogs team told me they really want to have as much of that as possible. They want the game to feel as dynamic as possible and not really script much outside the clearly planned story paths they're going to explore. And there's even permadeath. So I got one of my operatives killed to test it out, and yeah, that was it. I had to pick another team member, and that character who died was gone forever. I couldn't play as him again. So you kind of start thinking of these characters as fairly transient and disposable. You don't want to get too tied to one character, and it seems like that could have advantages and disadvantages. So yeah, I'm pretty excited for Watch Dogs Legion. The hour of the game I got to play was very, very fun. It's one of my highlights of E3 for sure, and I want to thank Ubisoft for showing us Watch Dogs Legion, and Kent Hudson, the game design director, for sitting down for a really interesting interview with me too. You can find that full interview on spieltimes.com or in the link below, as well as my full preview article, which is a bit longer, goes into more detail about the hour of the game I played.
Lots of hugs and kisses.
If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like, subscribe to our channel, ring the notification bell to get notified every time we make a new video. If you didn't enjoy it, leave us a comment below to tell us what we need to do better next time. We always want to hear your feedback. You can follow Spiel Times at Spiel Times on Twitter. I'm at Caleb Wysor on Twitter, so follow me there if you want more Watch Dogs Legion content. You can follow Spiel Times on Facebook, on Instagram, all that good stuff. All those links are down in the description. Thanks so much for watching.
Does the rolling help?